Hi there. Welcome to Infinite Stories. This is the podcast where we sit down and interview everyday people just like you and me. This is your host, Mitchell Vine, and boy, do we have an incredible story for you. Let's jump into this week's interview. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to come onto the podcast today, Sarah. Why don't you kind of give a little introduction about who you are and what your ministry/business does?
Yeah, so I'm Sarah Beisel, and I am a Facebook groups expert coach. I don't really know what exactly to call myself, but I love helping Christian entrepreneurs with their Facebook groups, helping them make them more profitable, more engaging, grow them, also that they can create more stable income from their Facebook group. And there's just so much to it that I love. I mean, obviously it's wonderful to be able to support people to, create more stability in their businesses, but the people that I seem to work with are also so passionate about just creating like a strong sense of community with their people. It's something that is clearly a God-given mission or a God-given like gifting for them. It's very important for them to not just have it be a place that's like, oh yeah, okay, we're making money, we're good, but it's like, no, what's the actual heart behind this? How am I building relationships and serving these people and sharing my gifts the way that God wants me to share those gifts with these people to create a space that is just a genuinely fun and nice and like uplifting place to be. And then, of course, that has the bonus of helping them, bring some income home to their families, which is great too. So it's really nice to be able to see both sides of that.
Awesome. I love it. All right. So now we're going to take that and we're going to work our way up to that story-wise. So let's go all the way back to the very, very beginning.
Yes.
Like, what are some of your like earliest memories with childhood?
Oh, from like my whole life?
Oh, whole life.
Oh my gosh. Got me thinking. What are some of the earliest memories? I think one of the earliest memories that I have was when I got my two front teeth knocked out when I was about somewhere between the age of like 2 and 4. I don't know exactly. I remember it as running into a door, but apparently like my dad was chasing me and I fell into the side of a coffee table and it just like killed the baby teeth. I had to get them extracted. So I've got like very vague, like fuzzy memories in and out of like, hurting myself and like being in the hospital and like it's so fuzzy at this point because it's so long ago, but that's probably one of the earliest memories that I have. It's a very, very bizarre thing to remember, but
Well, I can see why you would remember that. I feel like if that happened to me, that would be like kind of burned into my brain somewhere. So
I don't remember any of like the negatives of it though. Like I don't remember it hurting or causing me any problems or anything. But it did become quite a fun joke because like that Christmas song about wanting your two front teeth, like for like 4 or 5 years of my life, was like, well, yeah, but I don't have my front teeth. I would like them to grow in.
Oh, okay. I love that. One of my favorite questions to ask, and I typically ask it at the beginning because it kind of sets the tone for the redemption arc that we're looking through your story. Mm-hmm. And it's, what would you say would be like the first time you understood or maybe just grasped the concept of sin? How early on did that come for you?
Ooh, I don't know. That's a really good question. I don't know. That's a really hard question. I'm trying to think because I remember I was quite young when I like decided that I wanted to like give my life to God. But because normally that's part of that kind of thought process, but I don't remember it being from like the perspective of, oh man, like I've messed up. Like I was really lonely at that age and I was like, I just want to have a friend and she's gonna be my friend. So like that's kind of the thought process at that point. I don't remember, when was the first concept? I was a goody two shoes like all the time. So I probably had like a very strong sense from like the get-go of not wanting to do anything wrong. But I can't think if there was like a definitive moment or anything about like when it kind of occurred to me that like, oh, we shouldn't be doing these things because it's sinful or it's bad. I feel like I've always just been the kind of person that never wanted to break any rules ever about anything.
You're speaking my language. That was exactly how my story was too. So yeah. I completely understand. I always would refer as me and my little brother. He would be the bad one. He would do all the bad things. And then there was me, like you could look at my direction. I'd say it was always him. I didn't do it. I'm sorry. And then most of the time it was true. But not all the time. But okay. Well, let's wiggle up a little bit into the story. middle school, high school, typically there's a lot of lies that start to be foundational within those years. Were there any lies that you wrestled with in those times?
I That's an interesting question to phrase it that way, because I guess like in that at that age, I guess some of the biggest things that I was struggling with personally, and it's funny because I didn't really notice them as being struggles at the time, but like with the hindsight, it's like, oh, I can see that this is like I've always had like difficulty with, like I'm very competitive and I'm very perfectionist, and so plays into the fact that I didn't want to ever break any rules and stuff as well as a little kid. So like especially when you're coming into like preteen age. I had a lot of like judgment for people that didn't like school because I was like, because I just wanted to. I loved school. I was very good at it. It was very natural to me, and a lot of people do not like school, and that's fine. They're not made for that. That's okay. They're gonna they're all those people are probably out running their own businesses and have trades and are probably very successful, but in their own right. But as like a 10-year, 12-year-old, I was like, gosh, you're just like the worst person ever. How can you not like school? And how do you not want to be here? So like that was something like looking back, I never really thought about it as a struggle because I was just like, that was just what I knew. But like looking back, I'm like, oh man, like that was a lot of really negative thoughts I was having about people that I shouldn't have been having. Oh my gosh. And I feel like with a lot of teens, like especially a lot of teenage girls, like we struggle a lot with like not necessarily like I didn't really struggle with body image per se, but just like a sense of feeling like you fit in or feeling like you're not like good enough for the popular people type of thing. So there was always that as a part of like my teenage years. I feel like it was easier as I got older, which is good. Like it didn't stick around too much. But yeah, that's definitely a part of like that era. I feel like for almost every teenager, but I think especially teenage girls suffer from that a lot more, I think.
I hear you. Yeah, no. I don't know how I was going to word exactly what I was about to just say, so I'm just going to have to kind of go over it or maybe around it because it's kind of like it's right in front of my face and I don't know how to say it. So I'm just going to go on to the next question because that's
Go for it.
exactly what you do.
Yeah.
You have a brain fart. Yeah, exactly. So kind of like maybe wiggling up into the high school era. High school, a lot of pivotal things typically happen as you're trying to figure out what it's going to look like being an adult after that. What did high school look like? Any big moments?
It's funny. I actually loved high school overall, like especially looking back at it. Maybe I didn't love it so much at the time, but I have very good memories of high school. I was in a marching band, so I like really found my tribe of people, and I was in leadership in the marching band as well. So from a young age, I was able to have a lot of responsibility over people, which was a little tricky at times because it's peers leading peers is very different from if you're leading in any other capacity as well. So there were some rocky moments there, but I loved it. I felt like it was an environment that I definitely thrived in, and so I actually quite enjoyed high school. Like it played into my desire for wanting to do well, and I was in a very competitive high school, to the point where like I was actually like not near the top of the class, which I was actually really fine with because I saw how stressed out people were. Like the valedictorians or the people in that like top 10 were almost all of them happened to be in band, which is quite funny. I like the coincidence of that. So I knew them fairly well, and I was seeing like, man, they're like not sleeping. They're really stressed out all the time. Like I'm actually kind of glad that I'm not striving for that level. So I feel like it was actually quite an interesting shift. Being in such a hyper competitive environment actually gave me a lot of self-awareness that like actually maybe this is not good for me. Maybe I don't want to do this, or maybe it's just not worth like the cost of what it would take, which is it's kind of nice. It kind of settled my drive down a little bit, not to like take the drive away, but just to kind of give it a home, right? It's like, okay, we can drive and we can strive, but I don't want it to like, I'm not willing to stay up till 3 a.m. to like perfect this thing. Like that's just not what I want to do, so it was actually quite nice in a way to be able to have that kind of recognition, because it definitely took a little bit of stress off of my shoulders, which is good. I mean, plenty of other stress from other things, I suppose, but yeah, so I actually quite enjoyed high school. It was a lot of fun for me, at least.
So then what was the transition out of high school like for you? Did you go off to college? Or
Yes.
What did it look like?
It's definitely a God story. I love it because I grew up in the UK, and we hadn't covered this part of the context. I grew up in the UK, and then we had moved to Texas when I was well, how old would I think I was 13, somewhere around that age. I moved to Texas. And so I did my high school years in Texas, and I loved that. And I hadn't originally planned on going back to the UK for college. I had kind of put some applications in, and just the way that their requirements were, I didn't actually end up meeting some of the requirements for some of the schools that I went to, because I changed some decisions about what I like, courses and exams and things. So I wasn't actually certain I was going to be going back to the UK at that point. So I'd also applied for some schools in the States, and I didn't end up getting into the ones that I really wanted to. And it was and I just kind of made peace. So I'm like, that's fine. Like, I'm still getting into a really good school. I guess this is just the path we're going to be here. And then I think that we had just decided, like, well, actually, one of the things that we was a discussion was whether I was going to be treated as like an international student or a resident if I had gone back to the UK, because obviously there's a huge price difference. And we were like, okay, if I could go as a resident, I would get my tuition for free. If I have to go as an international student, that's going to be a lot more than it would be if I stayed in the States. And so I think we had put like one final application in. I wanted to study law, right? That was kind of originally my career path. And so in the UK, I'd applied for the law degree, and originally they had said, oh, there's actually no spots for the law degree. I'm really sorry, like, you can't come. You would be treated as a resident, but you can't come. There's no spots. And I'm like, oh, okay, I guess that's fine. That makes sense. And then I think a couple days, I don't remember exactly, but very recently after that conversation, someone had like got in touch with us and said, actually, do you know what, we'll just squeeze you in. We'll just like register you as a master's student, and then once you're in the system, we'll change you to an undergrad and you can come. And I'm like, what, are you serious? Like, all right, okay, cool. I didn't think that was allowed, but anyway, so they like,
definitely not.
Something happened and we were able to like squeeze our way into the system. So I ended up actually coming back to the UK for college, which was actually amazing. I loved it so much, and some of my closest friends I met there, right? So it was an absolute perfect direction to go. But it's still funny, like, wasn't even something that I had originally planned on having happen. Like, this conversation took place, I think, like maybe a month before, well, 6 weeks before school was due to start. Like, it was like in August, or like the very end of the summer, where it's suddenly like, oh, and by the way, we're actually going to change our whole plans. I'm like, cool, let's do it.
Oh man. So then law school, that's kind of a big deal,
yeah,
if I'm not mistaken. So then how did just the time and the events, how did it shift from law school to what you're doing now? Like, what were the story points that kind of led to where you are?
Yeah, I loved studying law. I really enjoyed it, like, from the academic side. I guess, like, I do have a little bit of academic in me. and
Little bit.
And I had done like a summer placement or something as part of the degree. And I actually hated practicing it. So like I did a summer placement for 3 weeks or something. And it was with a firm that practiced the type of law that I really wanted to do, which was medical law. I loved studying medical law. I'm like, this is perfect. I love it. Let's do a practicum with this firm. And it was so boring. I hated it. It was like the dullest thing of my life. Like every single day, like basically that 3 weeks, kind of like the thought that I had was like, this 3 weeks is everything I'm ever going to do for the rest of my life, basically. Like if I stuck here, obviously that's not true, but like the majority of what I would do as a lawyer, I covered in those 3 weeks. And I saw that and I'm like, oh geez, I can't do this for 40 years. This is so boring. Like, this is just not fulfilling. I don't like this. Like, oh my gosh. So at that point I was like, okay, well, I'm in the law degree. What do I do now? So I decided to try the academic route. So I decided to do a research master's, which is like a little mini PhD. It's like the trial run, as I call it. Like, I don't know if I want to do a PhD. I don't know if I want to commit to 3 full years of this. So I did a 1-year research master's. And I actually hated that too. Because it was so lonely. I think that's the thing that really got to me about that. Like, it was so isolating because you're just like on your own. Like, yes, you have your friends and you have like, I had to run a few, not classes, but like I had to run a few like study groups as part of like being a master's student. And so that was really fun. I got to teach some law things, which was quite fun, but it's very lonely. And I think that was like the biggest thing where I was like, I don't like this degree. I feel really isolated. I feel like a lot of like pressure to like, because I guess the other thing that was really difficult with that was you don't really have a lot of guidance for whether you're doing well or not. Like, because it's just very much like you're spending a whole year researching, and then at the end of the year you produce like a massive paper. I can't remember how many. I think it ended up being like almost 100 pages or something. It was really long. I know. It's about a third of what your PhD would be. So, and it would eventually turn into like your PhD paper if I had pursued it. But thank goodness I did not. But it was a very isolating and frustrating year because I didn't have anything to know, like, am I doing well? I felt like I was constantly underperforming or not doing particularly well at what I was doing, which was quite interesting. So I decided at the end of that I was going to just say goodbye to the legal world. Clearly this was not for me. And I ended up getting a management job. Like in the UK, I don't know if it's the same in the States, I don't really know how it works, but in the UK they have like these kind of training schemes, which are basically like internships, but you do get paid for them. So you get paid like a reduced salary, but it's still, you still get paid, but you're training. And I decided to do that with the hospitals, like the health service in the UK. Because I thought, oh, maybe I'm a manager kind of person. Like I went to like the counselor. I'm like, what do I do with my life? Like I'm clearly not a lawyer. So like, what do I do? And I think for whatever their little things spat out that I should be a manager. And I was like, all right, okay, sure. I'll trust the quiz. Like, I don't really know what I'm...
It's gotta know.
Like, it's gotta know. Like, well, and the career counselors, speak to people all day, every day about this kind of thing. So there's a level of trust that they do know what they're talking about, right? And I, so funny, hated management too, as it turns out. Some of that was external. It wasn't, if it had been different circumstances, it would maybe have been better. It was just unfortunate this happened just before COVID. So my training was really disrupted by COVID, especially working in healthcare. And I unintentionally got forgotten about within the whole system because like people were busy trying to manage COVID, and it was a crisis situation for such a long time. And I just kind of ended up getting kind of shifted out of what I was supposed to be doing because the area I worked in basically got shut down for like 4 or 5 months because all of those people were moved on to do other things. And I was like, okay, well, where do I go? What do I do? And nobody had checked in with me. Nobody had like made sure that I was taken care of. So it was, I think part of it was just the context of all of the things that were happening. But yeah, it's funny like looking back because when you walk through it, it's like I've always found that like I've done something and then not liked it, and then done something and then not liked it. And I think that's been like a real important like mental challenge for me, especially like coming into like the business side, because I know that's kind of like the next natural stage of this story, because I have pivoted a fair few times in business and it's always been on my mind, like, am I just changing because I'm bored? Like, is that the thing? Like, that's a story that is not true, but it's a story that has been in my mind that I've kind of been telling myself sometimes, right? It's like, did I just make these changes because I was bored? Like, and like, am I making this change because it needs to be a good change? Like, this is something that is important and necessary and is, a decision that's being made from a good place rather than like, oh, it's scary, or, oh, I don't like this. Like, it's been a very interesting, like, mental wrestle, more so in the recent years, because I've had this awareness now of like, oh gosh, I have like chopped and changed my life a lot. Like, am I just doing this on a whim? Like, no, we're not. But it's made decisions in the more recent years a little trickier, because I have that awareness of like, oh gosh, like, am I just doing what Sarah always seems to do, which is do something for a couple years and then decide it's stupid? It's like, no, this is not what's happening. But that's where my brain sometimes goes,
Well, yeah, no, it definitely makes sense to have that lie kind of pop up every now and then. I definitely remember a friend talking to me about how many jobs I would hop from growing up as well, and I never really thought about it until recently how often it actually was happening.
Yeah.
Like maybe every 2 years or 1 year and a half or 8 months, and I was like, did I really do it that much? I don't remember that. And asking even that same question of like, was I just bored? Did I actually want to go and do something else? Did I want to learn something else? Was it beneficial? Did God use it?
Yeah.
I mean, kind of all those questions do kind of culminate over time. That's for sure.
Yeah. And it's
so I
funny
guess
because like, again, like looking back on it, like, and I think a lot of the struggle was because I just didn't really know where I was trying to go with what I wanted to do with my life. And I think like the things that I've ended up doing or the interests that I now have for things that I'm hoping that I'll pursue in the future when I have a little bit more time once my kids are a little older are not things that were even like on my radar as things that would exist as a career or like something that you do. Like nobody mentioned business to me. Like my family is not a family of entrepreneurs, right? Like it's not something that would have even come up in conversation because it's a risky thing to do. My family is very, especially my mom, love her, but she's very risk averse. Like we don't like to take risks. And so even the idea of doing something out of the norm, it's just not something that was ever like on my mind as like an option for me to go do. And some of the things that I was interested in, I just knew I would not have the skills for. Like, because I have loved the idea of like, you know, my mom's a doctor. And so we have like a bit of that medical background. And I've always been drawn to medical or healthcare related things. But I'm so like, I could not do needles. I can't do like other people's blood. Like, I'd be really bad as a doctor or a nurse. Like I would not thrive. I would be terrible. And I always knew that. It's like, man, this could be a really good job for me in terms of the actual like what you're doing, but I just like I'm not made for it. That is not me. I'm not designed for this. So I guess I have just always had that kind of like unsettling of like how do I fit in with like the skills that I have and the passions that I have, and how do I like blend that into something that is worth doing with my time. Like I've always been a very purpose-driven person. And I think that's probably partly why I have spent so much time changing my mind on things that I'm doing, because if I don't feel like 100% connected to what I'm doing, I just don't want to do it. It's not worth my time and energy. Like I didn't love law. I'm like, I'm not going to commit my career to something that I don't love. Like it would be a very stable income. It would be a very good income, but that's not enough for me. Like I just don't want to do that to myself, you know?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, I mean, you're answering a lot of the questions that so many people, specifically high school to college age, like these are all the questions of like, I thought I'm just supposed to go make money. That's the logical next step, right? I'm just supposed to go get married, maybe have kids.
Yeah.
But like all that gray area of what life is supposed to look like out of high school is supposed to be gray for a reason, because there is no one set answer.
Yeah.
And I think it's a really cool, like the adventurous side of things. I'm a very adventurous person. So like when I ended up leaving the house for the first time, I just did tons of stuff and tried to figure out everything.
Yeah.
And moved from state to state, tried to do overseas missionary work and like all the different things. It's just like, I just want to use my skills. I just want to do what I'm supposed to be designed to do. Kind of like what you said. Yeah. It's just like, I don't know what that is. And so I'm going to just keep trying things until I can figure it out. But no, that's so good. So fill in the gap. What happened between the doctoring management to where you are now? What happened? What shifted around?
Yeah, so like a lot of people, I had my COVID baby was business. So I was like stuck at home because, like I said, my work kind of forgot about me. And eventually when they remembered that I was there because I had prodded them, I'm like, what do I do? Like, how can I be helpful? Basically, they had assigned to me the task of monitoring an inbox, and every time an email came in, I had to take the information in the email and put it in a spreadsheet. And for 4 months, that was the only job that I did, which was awful. I mean, someone needed to do it, but I did not enjoy it. I would just like play video games on the couch and then ping, I'm like, okay, walk over to the desk, like take the 2 minutes, do the thing. I'm like, cool, I'm going back to take a nap, and then ping, I'm like, okay, like it was not fun. So I was really bored, really unfulfilled, like feeling very neglected just in terms of everything. And I think at that, I can't remember, but I think at some point an ad had like popped up on Facebook about like, you know, could you make money from your writing, or like could you have a career, like a copywriting career from using your writing? And I'm like, you know, I'm a good writer. Like I'd never really thought about how I could use writing as a career, because the only thing I thought, like the only option I knew was journalism. Like to use writing, and I'm like, I hate politics. Like I'm not doing journalism. Like that's not something I'm interested in. So I never even like considered other possibilities or for that. So I like took this, like signed up for like the free webinar thing, and then ended up taking the course and trained as a copywriter. I'm like, okay, cool. Like let's just explore this. Like I've got so much time. I'm like not even working a real job right now. Like let's just play around with this. And so that was kind of my entryway into business, was through copywriting, which I did for a little while. And I still do. I still love doing copywriting, but I kind of over time discovered that I actually really have much more of a preference to coach and teach, and rather than to be the doer, like the service provider. So I ended up kind of transitioning through into the coaching side of things, and through another series of random events, I kind of ended up in the Facebook groups world, because people would just ask me like, oh, you have a Facebook group, like how are you doing the things that you're doing? So I had originally started my Facebook group to try and support like my copywriting business, and when I kind of was like, okay, well, I don't really want to be a service provider for this anymore, because I just don't like, it's just not the way that I want to do. I want to teach things. Like, how do I kind of navigate this? And people would just ask me like, how are you doing your Facebook group? Like, it's growing and you're not doing anything. Like, what are you doing? And so I started talking more about Facebook groups, and that was like, actually, this is something that I could teach, because this is something I enjoy. It's something I'm really good at, and something that people clearly need some help with. So that's kind of how we ended up transitioning into Facebook groups, which is about 18 months ago, I think, or so, that I made that kind of official transition. I suppose I was doing a lot of coaching on it before that, because people kept asking me about it. So it's kind of interesting how it, definitely would not have said, if I went back to like my 14-year-old self, I'm like, hey, by the way, this new app that you're using, Facebook, you're going to teach people how to use that one day, and people are going to pay you for it. It's like, what are you talking about? I'm not a social media person. I hate social media. I'm not trendy, but here we are,
Oh man, that is incredible.
Yeah.
I really appreciate how you said through a long string of random events, because in God's eyes it
It's
definitely
not,
wasn't
I know.
random.
It feels that way though, doesn't it?
Oh, but in the moment, oh my goodness, yeah, like the amount of times where I went to a certain location to do a certain thing, and then it ended up being only like a week long, and it was supposed to be like a month long, or whatever it might be. And just like as I am like a goldfish trying to swim forward, it's just kind of like hitting like a glass wall, and then just keep going, and
Yeah.
just it's like a maze. Now I'm thinking about this analogy that I'm thinking, but
Yeah.
it's just like hitting a wall, keep going, hit a wall, keep going, hit a wall, keep going. I don't know. The whole door analogy is really cheesy for me, so I like that one a little bit better.
Yeah.
But just the idea of like, as long as you are keep moving forward, just little by little, like God knows exactly the story that you have, and He loves writing it. And, I mean, it's already written.
Yeah.
To be fair, but it's the idea of He gets to watch and guide us through the stories that He's written, and it's the best possible story for you, because He knows us inside and out. And so I'm kind of curious, kind of looking back a little bit back to the beginning. You kind of mentioned it a little bit, but a lot of people talk about having that salvation moment or light bulb moment. How did that affect your life, and how did that help guide you through the decisions that you were making up until this point?
In terms of like how having like a relationship with Jesus has impacted the decisions, I guess. Okay, that's an interesting question. It's funny, I don't really know, because I guess it's always guided me from the perspective of like making like good choices versus bad choices, like at a kind of superficial level. That was pretty much all that I had really thought about it through until adulthood. Like that's pretty much as far as it went. Like I was never like a rebellious person with my faith, but I also was not like super like 200% all in, like I'm doing all the things type of person either, because that just wasn't particularly my personality for that either. I think it really came more into my own, like for a lot of people, I guess, like when I went to college and I got to be like, okay, this is my faith now. Like I get to choose the church that I go to, and I get to decide like what works for me. And I found a really wonderful church through that I attended through university, that I still kind of grieve that I don't get to go there anymore, because it's across the ocean and in a city that I don't live in anymore. And I really like, it's one of those churches that will probably stay with me for life, because it was so like, it came to me at a really good time, right? Because I was a young adult off on my own for the first time. And I think that being able to be in an environment of people that were just like so like not expressive in like the kind of like charismatic church kind of way, but just the fact that they were so bold and open and they owned their faith. Like it wasn't something that was kind of talked about in corners. It was just like, this is who I am and this is what I do and we're here for it. And if you're here for it too, then great. And just like being part of that environment where it was so woven into every part of their lives and decision making and everything was a very cool environment to be part of. So I think that really helped with my my boldness with faith compared to how it used to be, where I just like kind of, people would maybe knew that I was a Christian, that's about it. Like I would not talk about it. I wouldn't really mention it. It was like scary and it's scary as a teenager to talk about those kinds of things anyway, but like I would never tell my friends like, oh, do you want to come to church with me? Like that's just not something I would ever do, you know? But as a young adult, I'd be like a little braver. I'd be like, hey, we're doing this like church thing. You want to like come along and do the things, you know? It's like, so I think just being part of that church helped with some of that. But I think how that has then affected like my later, like the later part of my life is I'm obviously much more conscious of knowing or wanting to know like whether the things that I'm doing are part of that God vision, rather than just like, oh, these are the things that I want to do. It's like, no, how does this fit into the kind of person that he's made me to be, or the kind of things that he's taken me through? Like I've got much more like perspective of like just as we're talking about, like looking back at our story and seeing how do these things get connected, and how do these things play into where we're going in the future, like all of those kinds of things. And so having just like much more awareness of that has been really interesting. And of course it's helped me decide that like it's given me more of an awareness of like how my gifts work within the network of everyone else's giftings, because I think that's something that's really interesting to think about. I remember so vividly still a conversation from when I was like middle teens at some point. I don't remember exactly the age, but that kind of era, sitting in my church in Texas, and they were talking about missions or something like that. And I remember so vividly thinking like, I'm not the person that goes out on the mission field. Like that's not me. I'm the person that supports. I'm the person that like stays behind and like, you know, finds the money to fund the trip type of thing. Like I was very much like from that perspective. And then also a separate kind of conversation about different types of giftings and how they work. And I was like, I'm not an evangelist. Like I'm not the person that goes out to people that don't know Jesus and share about them. Like that's not me. I love to nurture the people that are already in church. Like I love the small groups. I love the Bible studies. I was like, my giftings are definitely more on the kind of prayer intercessory side of things. And so I was like, these giftings are for building up the church, not necessarily, I mean, obviously we pray for people outside of the church, but like they're really honed in for building up people that are already part of the body. And so taking that into business, I'm like, well, I'm not called to serve people that are not Christians and be the light for them. I'm called to find the people that are already within that faith and support them in their faith, which is really interesting. So it's funny just having an awareness of how that giftings, how those giftings work, and applying it to him, like to my business model in that sense. So it's all very interesting. Like it's cool to see how the knowledge of these things has impacted my ability to make better decisions or better choices, I guess. It's very cool.
Oh, I love that. I love that. So then as you were doing what you were doing now, like how do I ask this question? With what you're doing right now, you're kind of leaning into like the mentor role or the guide role in stories, you know, like the grumpy old man kind of character.
I'm the sage, yeah.
Yeah, the sage.
Yeah.
Yes. I wasn't going to reference you being an old man.
Yeah.
That's not where I was going with that.
Yeah.
But how do you enjoy guiding other people along? Like, how do you enjoy the mentoring process? Like, is it just strictly Facebook groups? This is the only area of expertise I got, or do you do it at all outside of business?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's funny. I feel like I would definitely have pursued teaching as a career if I had like not kind of been like scared out of it by other people or whatever, because I was definitely thinking about it as a teenager, like going into teaching and education. So I feel like I've always just been, I think it goes back to like I said, I was always like the kind of person that wanted to follow the rules. So that also meant I was the person telling everybody else that they had to follow the rules. So I definitely have like the classic like bossy child personality where I like to just tell people what to do, which is maybe why I went into management, because that's kind of like leadership in a way. But it's like I guess I have always just enjoyed like in different stages and phases sharing the things that I know. And obviously as a child, and it's obviously done in a like less gentle, a little bit more immature of a way where it's like, you know, you should be like me, you should do these things. But as I have grown up and evolved, I've always been drawn to leadership positions and wanting to guide. So like when we were talking about it in high school, like I was on the leadership team because I wanted to, I had good skills for it, but I enjoyed being able to help people develop their skills and help them become better at whatever it is that they were working on. And some of the fondest moments I have is like being able to like go one-on-one with people and help them with things. Like I remember there was a one of the girls was not very good with her like actual marching technique. She was really struggling with it, and she came up to me one day and asked me to like, would you just like come out a couple mornings a week with me and like help me work on this thing so that I'm like not constantly getting told off by the teachers for not doing this right. And I was like, yeah. And we spent a lot of mornings together, just like, like 20 minutes, 30 minutes working on something together, which is a lot of fun. And like, she asked me for that. Like, it's not something that I had like gone and be like, hey, we should go fix this. She like came and's like, can you help me with this? I hadn't even remembered about that memory until right now, which is actually kind of interesting. I'd completely forgotten that ever happened. So yeah, I've always loved that. And and even within the church, like I've always wanted to and love running small groups and things like that. So some of the times I have been, not so much in this season, because like little baby season is not really the time for this, unfortunately. As much as I would love to, it's just a little tricky. But when I did not have kids, I was running like the small group Bible studies and things like that as well. So it's fun to just be able to be that kind of guide. I think it's difficult. It's one of the things you constantly have to check yourself that you're not like putting yourself on a pedestal, because I think sometimes it's very easy. And there is a lot of satisfaction in people looking up to you for things, So it's like it's a blessing and a curse, because it is nice and it does feel very like satisfying, but at the same time it's like, okay, I gotta check myself, like we're not letting this go to my head. I can enjoy this but not let it become the thing that I'm seeking. It's like it's nice to have that feeling of people like being grateful for you being able to help them and do the things, but at the same time it's like, okay, let's just keep ourselves in check. I don't want to let this run away. So it's just another thing to be conscious of, I suppose, right?
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. And kind of on the flip side of that, I'm curious, do you remember any mentors or guides that kind of walked alongside you in your story up until this point?
Yeah, I still have. We meet a little less frequently now than we used to, just because of life events, but since I was about, I guess I would have been 19-ish at the time. So, gosh, that's like 11 years now. I'm getting on. It was a very conscious decision to connect with a spiritual mentor, which is something I never really thought about having as a kid, right? But then when I went to this church at university, one of the sermons was our pastor talking about his mentor that he'd had for 20 or 30 years or something at that point. I don't remember. No, maybe not 30. He's not that old. It would have been maybe 20 years at the time. And I was like, wow, I want that. I want to have like that close of a friendship with someone. And so I like went back home that summer and found, and there's this lady in my church that she's about the same age as my parents, so it's kind of like that age range where it felt like a mother figure but was not my mother. And I was like, hey, like, do you want to be my like spiritual mentor? And she was like, oh my gosh, that sounds great. And so like we've at least once a month pretty much for the last 11 years have met and just chatted about things. And so it's been so nice to have that kind of, again, it's just like, it's almost like a coaching relationship, right? We're like, sometimes we're just sitting there and chatting about our lives together, and we're praying and reading books and things. But she's also been able to give me a lot of good guidance about like navigating like family challenges and things like that, where you can't really speak to your mom about the problems you're having with your mom. Like, it's kind of tricky. It's nice to have someone else to be like, okay, like we're having this problem, like how do we navigate this kind of conversation? And so it's been really nice to have that kind of, that person there to do all the things, like do a lot of the faith things, but also just to be able to talk about life events and navigating having a baby and adjusting to like being a mom and those kinds of things as well. So it's been it's a lot of fun.
Why do you think most people don't have mentors?
I think a lot of people, like, I never thought about it as something to do until someone had said that it's something that they did. I guess we don't really broadcast it. So if you're not aware that someone has a mentor or that's an option, then it's just not something that's on your radar, right? Like, I would never really have thought about it. I mean, like as a high schooler, I guess I could maybe have considered like my band director's mentors, because we had a fairly close relationship. And, there's a lot of guidance that they were providing us outside of just like musical instruction, like especially like from the leadership component. Like there was a lot of great teaching and mentoring that they were doing there, but I would never have labeled it that at the time, right? Like they were just my teacher, and that was all that I thought about at the time. I can see it now as like definitely they were taking on that role as mentorship, but you wouldn't you wouldn't have known it at the time because you're a teenager and you're not thinking about it. So I think a lot of it is probably we just don't have the awareness that it's something that
Mm.
we ought to do or should do or is beneficial to do. And I think once we become adults and we're suddenly like in control of our own lives, and it's like, oh, like we're struggling with this, we're struggling with that, and I think we're getting more aware now, especially now that there's more conversations about like getting support with things. It's more like it's more okay to talk about having struggles or wanting to like get more knowledge or more support in different areas. So hopefully it'll become
Mm.
more common.
Yeah, no, absolutely, I agree. That's something that I would love to do in the near future. Is just like really instill and encourage mentors to plug into the community around
Mhm.
them and be looking for those students who are absolutely desperately looking for it, just based on bad home life or whatever it
Yeah.
might be. Just like you really have no idea how much influence a conversation can have on a student, let alone if you
Yeah.
still talk to that student 10 years from now.
Yeah.
Like it is instrumental in a life.
Yeah. I think
um
the other component as well is that we're just so busy now as well. Like modern
mm,
life is so busy. Because I was just thinking like, oh man, it would be so much fun to be able to do that for people. But then the next thought that I have is when would I do that? Like that would cut, I mean,
mm-hmm,
like that would cut into family time or that would cut into work time. Like I don't have time to do that for someone, you know, and I think we're just so busy these days. It's hard to prioritize things that are not like making money or being at home with our
mm-hmm,
families if we have families or like our own hobbies. Like it's just difficult to think outside of those kind of categories. And so yeah, I get like one of my goals, I suppose, as life goes on is to, give myself more of that time freedom that I'm available to do things like that in the community for people, or even just have it be a different component of business. Like outside of like business and Facebook groups, I have a huge passion for like birth now. Having had two kids, I'm so like, because there's, gosh, that could be a whole, we could talk about that for hours as well, but like there's a lot of like miss what's the word? What's the right way to phrase it? I guess like we've lost a lot of the kind of community wisdom or like the knowledge being
mm-hmm,
passed down like through communities, through like the old wives, like the old midwives, or like our like we don't see birth until we experience it ourselves these days. Like there's so much like knowledge that is being lost generation to generation, which
mm.
is really interesting. And so like I have such a like this is going to be one of my things that I spend more time doing once I am like through like the little kid years myself and I have time back, but like to really lean into creating more like community and like knowledge sharing in this kind of area, because there's so much that women just don't know. And that's kind of plays into it. Like we don't have a birth mentor. Like I didn't think about that until I had my first baby, and it was like, oh, it didn't go particularly well, and I was like, oh my gosh, like I need someone to help me. I need to learn things. So it's that same thing. Like we don't think about getting mentorship and things because there's so much we don't know, and there's so much that we just don't
Mm,
prioritize or have time for. You know,
mm.
yeah.
No, absolutely. Well, kind of shifting a little bit more out of the story space and more into the wisdom sharing space, what were some things that have been influential for you as you've kind of moved into the business ministry space? Maybe podcasts, books, or any other speakers that have kind of encouraged you along the way?
Oh, I love this question. I think, let's see. Biggest influences. One of the biggest influences, I think, has been a lady called Stephanie Gass. She's a podcaster, and I think she is like, I think when I don't remember when I first came across her podcast or her Facebook group or whatever, but I think she's like very overtly faith-based, and that's just a huge part of her brand and what she wants to do. And I think it was probably the first time in like the business world that I had seen a business be so integrated with Christianity. I just hadn't, just
Mm,
like the circles that I had been in up until that point, I just hadn't come across it. And I loved that. And it was so, it opened my eyes. I'm like, wow, like maybe I could do that. Like maybe my business could be for Christians. Like maybe that's something like it just hadn't crossed my mind as a possibility. And so it was so refreshing to find like someone speaking from like, speaking Bible verses on their podcast and relating all of these business topics to things that we find in the Bible. And I was like, oh my gosh, like so much of what we can do in entrepreneurship is already in the Bible. Like we have all these tools. We just need to know how to
mhm.
interpret it to this context, right? And so it was so eye-opening for me, which is really wonderful. So that was probably one of the biggest business influences that I had, because it really just opened my eyes to the possibility. And one of the other things that I really loved was there was a book called, I just talked about it the other day on with my students. I think it's called Sell with a Story by Paul Smith, I think is his name. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. But it's a fantastic book just about how we use storytelling in the context of sales. And that was really wonderful because I mean it played into my love of writing, but also just again gave me that like revelation that sales can be a really like beautiful process rather than something that is like buy the thing and do the thing. It's like actually like what if we just encourage people, and by through that encouragement they want to make a purchase. So that was a really like good shift for me in terms of how I approached just like talking about what I do and how I write my content and things like that. So like on a kind of technical level, that was a really big influencer. And then I think like the last biggest like influence is like my current coach. Her name is Michelle Vroom, and she's a Christian herself, but not like overtly Christian in her marketing. That's just not what she wants to do. But being able to like, I feel like she has shown me that business can be peaceful, which is not something like I feel like a lot of people are so focused on like the like the top of the mountain moments, like the biggest things and the biggest wins, and having it be this like big dramatic flamboyant like thing. And her whole like the thing that she loves to mentor people to do is just like kind of create a normal stability in business where it's just like, yep, business is business and that's just what it is. And I feel like just being able to settle into this idea that like business can be calm and business can just be normal, and it's just like this is just what it is, you know, like it's providing money for our family and that's what it should do, and that's normal and it's exciting, and it doesn't need to be like the massive like $100,000 launches unless your business is at the stage where that's just what it's doing by virtue of it existing for so long. But like it doesn't need to be this huge crazy dramatic thing. It can just be what it is, you know. So yeah, three different things from different perspectives and different aspects of business. But yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I love that. Well, a fun question. I love asking this one. Are you more a book person or a movie person?
Oh gosh. That's an interesting question. I was a book person all the way until university, where I had to read so much that I like read myself out and I couldn't read for fun. And then I became very much a movie person. I feel like I'm now getting back into books. I bought a Kindle for the first time ever, like 2 months ago, and I'm like, oh, I like to read again. This is so nice because it's so much easier than books. Like I don't have two hands a lot of the time to read. I'm holding a baby, so I'm like, I need something that I can just like click a button. So getting into ebooks, like I was so resistant for so long because there's something so special about a physical book, but I just have to accept I'm not in a physical book era right now, and that's okay. So I feel like I'm getting back into reading as a hobby, but still definitely more on the movie side because it's just so much easier to consume when you are exhausted or not hands-free and those kinds of things, and it's quicker. Sometimes I think it's quicker to watch a movie. So you know.
Oh, so true. So then if we were going to make a movie about your life, what would you want it to be called?
Oh gosh, I have no idea. I have no idea. What would it be called? Gosh, that's a really challenging question, just because I'm like not sure I have the creativity to like pick a name. I'm like getting into the creative space. I'm like, I don't know. I can't pick a name. What would it be called? I don't know. That's a really tough question. You've put me on the spot.
I know. This is typically the question that I typically have to edit because there's a typical pause.
Yeah, there's going to be a long
give me a minute or something like that. And I'm like, well, I'll wait.
What would a movie be called for me? Jeez, I don't know. I feel like jokingly I would call it Just Keep Moving because I feel like I've moved around a lot. Not just physically, but just in terms of the things that I've been doing as well. Like we've been talking about how I was going to do this and then I did this and then like I've changed my direction a lot of times, but like physically, like locationally, I have moved a ton as well. Like I started in the UK, I went to Texas, went back to the UK. Now I live in Canada because that's where my husband is from. I'm just like darting all over the place as well. So maybe it would be like Finding Nemo themed, like just keep moving.
Just keep moving. I love it. Oh, I love it. Oh, man. Well, technically, I only have two last questions for you. And the first one is, how would you encourage someone who is scared or intimidated in doing something that is very much out of their comfort zone that they think that God wants them to do, taking a business or a podcast or whatever it might be, how would you encourage them?
I think taking the time to find the right mentor is really important. I think that was one of the things that, like, looking back, I don't want to call them mistakes, because like they led me to where I am, but some of the things in that I've done in the last like 5-ish years of like navigating business that I have looked back on as not good decisions, were because I was like either trying to rush into something or was kind of afraid to take the time to think about whether it was the right thing to do, or you kind of buy into the urgency and, you know, the what do we call it, the FOMO of like, oh, we've got to do this thing right now. Like, there's a lot of urgency that comes from people and business, because that's just what businesses do. And I think it meant that I rushed into certain like decisions that were perhaps not the most fruitful. And again, like, they've led me to where I am now, so it is what it is. But I think taking the time to find the right mentor, so finding someone that has the kind of life that you want to have, so that you can learn, like, what are they doing to have that kind of life. So if it's important to you that they have a faith background, because that was always really important to me, because like, I want to make sure that they are making decisions from the same headspace that I would make decisions. So those kinds of things were really important. I think once I found the right mentor, it became so much easier to improve my business or to work on the right things, and it's made things a lot easier, and I don't feel as stressed about things anymore, you know. Whereas in coaching relationships that were not great, I felt a lot of stress, or I felt a lot of pressure or frustration, like I had these negative emotions, right? It's like feeling like what emotions and what thoughts come from God versus what emotions and thoughts don't come from God. And I think that's really helpful to notice, like, are we making decisions that are in line with God's vision, right? Because, you know, we're going to feel fear when we're doing things that are new, but is it a fear that's coming from a place of like, I'm excited, but it's kind of scaring me that this is new? Or is it like a fear that's kind of like suffocating you? Because if it's that kind of suffocating fear, that's probably not a healthy fear. That's not a God fear, right? Versus like, if you're like, I know that this is the thing, but I'm a little nervous about it, but you don't feel like you're kind of suffocating from the fear, then that's a natural, normal fear for just doing something that is new or uncomfortable. So I think getting really in tune with like how I was responding to different things, or how I was feeling about different decisions, and whether those feelings were in alignment with biblical truth or not, was really helpful as well, to know that, like, am I making a decision because it feels like the right thing? Like, do I feel calm about this decision? Do I feel confident? Even if I feel a little scared, like, does it feel good? Like, does it feel in alignment with these emotions that we associate with God, versus is it coming from a place of like, not necessarily sinful emotions, but like negative emotions, or emotions that are being played up or taken advantage of by the enemy? Like, where is that decision coming from? And I think just slowing down to have the awareness of what your emotions are doing is really, really helpful, because then it for the most part, prevents us from making decisions from like this negative place. And it's like, okay, we can make decisions from this God place over here. It takes a lot of practice. Like, it's easy to say, it takes a lot of practice. Like, it's taken like many, many years worth of decision making for me to even have the awareness that this is what I'm trying to navigate, right? Like, it doesn't, like, that's what, you know, we have an intuition, right? The Holy Spirit intuition. Like, and I think learning how to understand, interpret, and trust that is really important, especially if you're going to be in business where you are kind of left to your own devices for most of the time. Like, being able to have confidence in your own intuition is really, really important. So take the time to practice it. It's okay if it doesn't go right, but learning how to interpret and understand and then act on that is very important.
No, absolutely agree. I absolutely agree. Man, I love that. Well, then I only have one last question then for you. Is there anything else that you sense God wants you to share on behalf of anybody who'd be listening to this?
I think similarly to when we were just having a conversation about finding the right mentors, I think finding the right community is really important. Like, I'm all about community, right? That's what I literally do for my business. But it is so important that, like, being in a community of people that are aspiring to the same thing as you, or coming from that same baseline as you, it's so helpful and encouraging. And I think like my business shifted when I started joining like Christian entrepreneur groups, because we were all in that same boat of like, we're navigating faith, we're navigating business. How do we bring these two things in alignment? And how does that look for each of us? And I think that was so helpful to be in that space where I felt like these people understand me, right? Like I can ask a question and people aren't going to be like, oh, stupid, just ignore your faith. Like, what are you talking about? You know, like I could say like, I'm
Mm-hmm.
struggling with this, help me. Or like, how do you know, like that question you just asked, like, how do you know if you're making, like, if you're following God's will in your business? Like you could ask that in a Christian Facebook group and people are going to give you some encouragement from a biblical perspective on that. And so I think whatever industry you're in, whatever niche you're wanting to pursue, getting into a community of people that are on that same path is life changing. It really is. So getting stuck into some communities, whatever that looks like for you, and it makes the journey less isolating, because business can be very lonely sometimes, you know, because you're just, unless you have a team, you know, which you're not necessarily going to do at the beginning, you're just kind of in by yourself. So being able to get into these spaces where you can network and kind of make friends and be able to kind of share your ups and downs and all those things is really, really wonderful.
I love that. I love that so much. Well, thank you so much for coming on to the podcast, Sarah. This has been great.
Yeah.
I appreciate hearing your story. It was wild.
Yeah.
I can't wait to listen back to it.
I know, it really is. When you like go through it, it's like, oh my gosh, like we have done a lot of things. I always used to think I
Covered a
had
lot
such
of
like a
space.
boring story. Like I remember when I was like giving like my testimonial when I got baptized, I was like, man, my story is like so boring. And it's like, that was like, oh gosh, like it's over 10 years ago now, but it's like another 10 years on, I'm like, wow, like there's a lot. If I had to share my testimonial now, it would be so different from 10 years ago, you know?
Which is good.
Yeah.
That's good that God keeps, it's kind of like the whole idea of like the Play-Doh, right?
Yeah.
Like you keep kind of reforming and pressing into it to make the shape that you're looking to make.
Yeah.
I would use like Potter and clay kind of analogy, but I've never tried that.
Yeah.
So Play-Doh, I've played with
We've all
Play-Doh.
played with Play-Doh, yeah.
We've all played with Play-Doh. Well, awesome. Well, I have a very silly way that I like to end the podcast, and that is with a high five with my guest.
I love it.
So, can you please pick a number between 1 and 10, and then we'll count down from that, and we'll high five the camera to make it look like we're high fiving each other.
All right, let's just pick 3, because that's like the easiest countdown number.
3. All right, get ready. So 3, 2, 1. Thank you so much for listening to this week's Infinite Story. If it resonated with you, send it to someone you think would be blessed by it. If you would like to share your story, please reach out to us at infiniteideas.studio. You never know how far the impact of your story can reach. Take care now.